this week's episode. I'm Paula Williams.
I'm John Williams.
And we are ABCI, and ABCI's mission is
to help you folks out there in the aerospace industry sell more of your products and services.
Right. And today we're talking about kind of bridging that gap between small to medium-sized aviation companies that want to get into aerospace and maybe have not done it before. So this is going to be super high level.
Yeah, obviously.
Way high level, which is appropriate for aerospace, right?
Yeah, I mean, space, I don't know, happens, what, 80,000 to 100,000 feet, somewhere up there?
Yeah, I know there's like different layers of atmosphere and out of the atmosphere and so on. So, and this is really cool because we've had some clients asking about how did they get involved in space marketing, especially since there are getting to be more private companies involved in aerospace. Mm-hmm. There seem to be more opportunities occurring, which is great.
Yep.
It's really exciting for employees and press and everything else to get involved in aerospace if you have the time, the means, and the opportunity, right?
And we're just talking about U.S. entrants currently.
Right, exactly. If you are from anywhere other than the U.S., we have no information.
Well, we do have, but we're not presenting it here.
Exactly.
This is just for the U.S.
Exactly. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about how to get started in aerospace marketing, some of the differences when we start working with companies of this scale and some of those other things. So let's dive in, shall we?
Why not?
Okay. So thing number one is you want to be ready to prove that you can do the job, right?
Of course. Just like you would any other place.
Exactly. And if you are not prepared to show, that you're credible and have your ducks together, your ducks in a row, whatever, then you don't want to get started contacting people. You don't want to get started making relationships and other things.
No, you want to get your ducks in a row first.
You want to get your ducks in a row first. So that's why that's thing number one on the list. Thing number two is to make a top 10 list of companies that you would like to work with. Mm-hmm. Thing number three is to find the decision makers. Number four is to create an approach plan for each of those decision makers. And of course, this is kind of a variation of our the outline from our aviation sales fundamentals course.
Of course.
But
it's still applicable.
Oh, yeah, it's absolutely applicable. And this is kind of a variation and a very short version in this podcast. So you create an approach plan, you create a holding pattern, and more than anything else, I think in the aerospace industry is be prepared to wait, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Flying's fine if you got the time.
And aerospace is even probably longer than that. Missions get scrubbed, projects get canceled. Lots of things can happen. So being prepared to wait is...
If you want to do a deep dive into any of the things we're about to say, give us a call.
Exactly. Okay, so let's start with looking like you're ready, being able to prove that you can do the job. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about some of the credibility markers expected by large organizations. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're in kind of an entrepreneurial space or mindset or background or whatever, this is going to be new for you. The kinds of people that are doing the subcontracting and making the decisions here are either from the government, have worked with the government, around the government, under the government, or
they're primed to the government.
Exactly. So that's kind of the mindset that a lot of the folks in some of the companies that we're going to be talking about have. They're going to be looking for certifications of your people, certifications of your company. If you're involved in government contracting, there's a whole checklist of items that you need, a cage code, a DUNS number, business licenses. The employment laws are a little different when you're working with the government. The SAM system. Mm-hmm. And you worked with all of that as a government contractor, right?
Unfortunately or fortunately. Hopefully, whoever is not in this, wants to get into this, has a lot of hair because you're going to pull some of it out.
Exactly. So, there are lists that you can find, and we're going to put a high-level one.
Some high-level ones, very high level. But it gives you a starting point to dig down And if you want to explore any of this in more detail, as I said previously, please give us a call and we'll do our best to guide you along the way.
Right. And it does not hurt to put these on your website on the About Us page, putting all of the certifications that you have so that they can find them in one place, make it super easy for them to do their due diligence. A lot of the people that you work with are going to expect to be able to do that.
In the last 5 years or so, the requirements of the government have changed dramatically and increased.
Mm-hmm. So you'll want to make sure, even if you've done this in the past, that you have a current checklist and that you've got all of the items on the checklist.
And the things you see here are very, very high level.
Right.
They go into cybersecurity. They go into all kinds of stuff that we haven't listed here.
Right. Exactly. And if you have that all listed out and you have it all together before you start contacting people, then when they start checking you out, they will see that you've got your ducks in a row and you look like you know what you're doing. Okay. So the next thing is to create a top 10 list of the companies that you'd like to work with. And we've done some of the work for you with this nice little infographic. Thank you, AirTech, for putting this together. These are the top aerospace and defense companies by volume of sales, and so on. And a lot of them are in the U.S.
And some, not all, some are federal U.S. government contractors.
Exactly. So, you can go through this list and decide, by geography, by type of company, by the type of service they're likely to need, and so on. Who are your targets from this list? Who would you like to be working with?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So once you have your top 10 list, I'm going to show you another way to do this, and we're going to take a field trip into LinkedIn.
Okay.
Okay. So here we are at LinkedIn, and what we're going to do is you've picked a top 10 companies in aerospace that you want to do business with, and we are going to jump into LinkedIn and put the first one in the search bar. So this is pretty easy stuff, right? So let's say Boeing is the one we want to look for. Now, when I go into the company page, I can see a lot of stuff. Obviously there's some stuff about, it's ranked in LinkedIn top companies and so on. The thing that I'm the most interested in right now is I need to find the people at Boeing who are the most likely to be interested in my product or service, right?
Since they have 146,000 plus employees.
Right. And all of these aerospace companies are going to be similar to this. I think all of them are pretty active on social media. All of them have a lot of employees. So, LinkedIn is a great way to kind of start to narrow this down. So the first thing I'm going to do is click this link. If I go down to these little heads here, I can see, these are the people that I know that work here now. If I click this, if I don't know anybody at Boeing, it's going to be a really short list, right? Mm-hmm. So what I can do is put this to maybe first and second degree connections. And then I can see I have about 2,000 results.
Whoa.
Yeah. I've been working in aviation for a really long time.
Well, I know that.
But, and you can keep going until it gets large enough.
Well, already it says unwieldy.
It's unwieldy, right? Exactly. But the nice thing is I'm going to narrow it down some more. So my product or service happens to be marketing, right? So who do I know in my first and second degree connections that is concerned with marketing at Boeing? So then I can see who these people are, that I can follow and who I can connect with and so on. So, these are people who are second degree connections. So if I want to connect with Christine Budzinski, what I'm going to do is say, aviation is a small world. Not that small, but obviously I guess Boeing isn't even all that small. I thought we should connect. So something really low key, low stress, no selling, nothing like that. Not inviting her to see a white paper, not inviting her to a webinar, nothing at all. Just aviation's a small world. I thought we should connect. Now, she could connect with me or she could not, and that's perfectly fine. But I have a lot of people to choose from here, and I can even narrow it down even further and say, who are the people that are the most likely to want my product or service, depending on what it is. Okay. But another thing that I can do is I can say, I only want to see people in
The greater Seattle area.
Seattle, because we're planning a trip to Seattle or something along those lines. So then I can say, show the results. And then I can see these are people that are at Boeing in the greater Seattle area that are my first or second degree connections, right?
Yeah.
So this saves a whole lot of time. And I'm not using the Sales Navigator. That is a tool that we've purchased and we're testing. But right now I'm just using the free tools that are available on LinkedIn to anybody who has a LinkedIn account.
Mm-hmm.
Cool?
Yep.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. So this is how I find people and how I grow my network. Another thing that I want to make sure that I'm doing is posting on my personal account. I want to make sure that I've got posts there that are going to be interesting to that person. So if I were doing this, I would probably want to say some things about, in fact, here I was talking about the private jet ban in France, which may or may not be interesting to Boeing because they're a competitor to Airbus. But I would probably write something about Boeing, in the history of aviation, or maybe how the private aircraft or the private jet ban in France may be impacting Boeing. Boeing is doing X number of flights in and out of France. That's something I could talk about that would possibly get the interest of people at Boeing looking at my profile and saying, wow, I really should connect with this person because they know what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So now I know how to find people and I know how to set bait, right? To make it look like, or at least to showcase my interest and my knowledge in the topics that they are interested in. So once I've done that, I can start building relationships with these kinds of people. And then let's take one of the people that I connected with, or that I am connected with. So I'm going to look at my first degree connections from Boeing. And now what I'm going to do, if this is one of my top 10 lists, then once a week, I'm going to go in and talk to maybe Jacqueline, if she was if she was one of my primary prospects. I'm going to look at what she's posted and see, okay, so she did congratulations on the Emergency Airborne Command post, and so on. Team Boeing I was a proud sponsor of this gala held in so if this was an event that I had been to, or that I knew anything about, or if I knew any of these people, I could comment on this. Since I don't, I'm just going to like it and say congratulations. And the reason I'm going to do this is because I want her to start seeing my name.
In real life, you're talking.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm doing this. If you look at my LinkedIn, you'll see that these are things that I've done. If you look at my LinkedIn activity for today, if you're connected with me on LinkedIn, this is all
real time.
All real time. So what this does is it has my face and my name show up in her feed. And the more often that happens, the more comfortable that person is going to be picking up the phone if she sees my name as an incoming call. She knows something about me. She knows I know something about her. It's not a cold name in the dark, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then she also knows that I just posted this fabulous post about how the private jet ban is influencing Boeing, which I didn't write, but assuming that I did, right?
Right.
Okay, cool. So you with me so far?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So this is how I start and continue a relationship using LinkedIn. And of course, eventually I'm going to have to shake this person's hand or they don't really exist, right? So, but once I've done this, then I can do a private message at some point and say what I would do. And I'm not really going to do this because I'm not really going to do this, but I can send a message that says, hey, I'm going to be at the Aerospace Symposium in April. And I would wait until, closer to the event, maybe 4 weeks out, and say, hey, are you going to be in Colorado Springs for this event? And if so, let's have coffee, and she will have been hearing from me for weeks by that time. So chances are she'll say yes, because she knows who I am. She knows who I'm connected to. She knows, other people that know us both. So this is not a cold connection, right?
Right.
Okay, cool. So I think that's a pretty good field trip for Boeing, right? We know how to find our top 10, find the people in our top 10 we want to connect with, expand our network into those people, start building relationships.
That works.
Okay. No selling.
Absolutely no selling.
Right. Okay, cool. So let's go back to the slides.
Okay.
Okay. See you there. Okay. We're back from our field trip.
Okay.
That was fun. But now that you have an idea of who we're looking for and how to find the individuals who are in the position to be making decisions about your product or service at those target companies, now you need an approach plate, right?
And those of you that have trained as an instrument pilot or old professionals and doing something different, you recognize this as what it is.
This is when you're coming to an airport that you aren't familiar with, or even if you are familiar with, it's good to...
Well, let's back up a notch.
Okay.
You aren't instrument rated yet. So you're going to be in an instrument flight plan, and they're going to clear you in via this approach plate.
Right.
And other things. And the difference is now, you can take the airplane thing, once you get started on what we're getting ready to talk to you about, there won't be an expected clearance time.
Exactly.
Or there won't be an expected further clearance. These are things you're going to have to determine.
Yeah. There are some differences. This is an imperfect metaphor. He can tell you all about how to follow an approach plate for flying. I can tell you all about an approach plate of how to approach a prospect in a sales situation. But the basics are the same. You have some information. The more you know about this person, or the more you know about their job, their concerns, their headaches, their life, the better, because then you can slide into that and find a way to start a relationship with them. So if they're active on LinkedIn, if they are posting a lot of, maybe questions, engineering type questions, then, that's the way you want to approach them is, here's what I know about this, or here's a person that I know that may be able to help you with that. You want to approach them in a way that's appropriate for that particular prospect.
Yeah, just like you go into holding pattern for this particular approach plate, you do not want to start selling.
Right. And you never want to sell on LinkedIn, especially to these big companies, because, they'll just block you very quickly. And then, they talk to their friends. Yeah. And that is not where we want to go. So, we want to tread very lightly here and just start a relationship, be a resource, provide information, provide contacts, do whatever you can to help this person, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So that's how you approach on LinkedIn. You may include in your approach plan for this particular person, approaching them at a show. So, if you know that they're speaking at the Space Symposium in Colorado Springs in April, or if you know that they're going to be exhibiting there, or whatever the situation is, you may want to plan an approach at that time and just, go in. Once again, no selling on your first approach. You just want to shake their hand, introduce yourself.
Exactly. So LinkedIn, you may find out where they're going, and then you say, oh, so are we. We'll buy you a cup of coffee when we get there.
Exactly. And that's as pushy as you ever want to get.
Yep.
Especially in the early stages with people at big companies. Or, any companies nowadays. There's no reason to be pushy on LinkedIn.
Matter of fact, you should say, if you have time, we'll buy you a cup of coffee.
Exactly. All right. So you make your approach, you shake a hand, you get connected on LinkedIn, you become buds, right? As much as you possibly can. Then we go into what we call a holding pattern. Because they probably, I mean, up until this point, they have been living without your product or service, right? They are not going to decide tomorrow that they absolutely can't live without it.
Nope.
Okay.
And this is the first place you're not going to get an EFC. So,
So in a marketing holding pattern, you basically plan to stay there as long as you need to. And so, what you'll want to do is be providing little drips of information to them about your product or service. You may have a white paper that you can send them or that you can offer them. They can choose to take it or not. You may host a webinar that you can invite them to. You may want to connect with them on their other social media. You may want to comment on their kids' soccer game last weekend. Whatever you can do to maintain that relationship, just like you would with any other human being, right? You want to see them at events that they go to. If you have a newsletter, that's even better because that keeps you top of mind with them. If you've got an autoresponder or a regular email piece that you send out once a week, once a month, whatever, you want to put them on your list and make sure that you are staying in communication with that person and staying where they can find you when they need you, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right. And positioning yourself over time as a trusted entity and as a person who knows what you're talking about and as an expert in this field, whatever you.
So if you met, in parentheses, these people on LinkedIn tomorrow, Monday, or Tuesday, whatever tomorrow is, you have plenty of time between now and April or November of next year to get to a point where you could be easily said, well, we're going to go to the show as well. We'll see you there. Maybe we can buy you a cup. Because by the time that rolls around, if you're doing your job right, you will know them well enough to be able to say that and expect a positive response.
Right. And another thing that we're doing now is ghostwriting on LinkedIn. So, if you are writing on topics and, when we do ghostwriting, we're actually thinking about your top 10 prospects. What are the problems they are having? What can we remark on about current events in this field? How can we keep that person interested, and how can we position you as the expert on that topic, right?
Right, as the expert you are.
Exactly.
But we have to massage the data.
Yeah, well, you have to put it in a format that's going to be seen by them, on LinkedIn or by whatever means we use to get your information in front of that person as often as we possibly can without being pain in the tail.
Overbearing.
Exactly. Okay. So, once again, here's where we started, right? How you get from where you are to where you want to be is always a process. In this case, it's going to be a long process. I once applied for a government job. This was a million years ago, and this is pretty typical of how...
You aren't that old. I don't care what you say.
Okay. This is pretty typical of how the government works, though. I applied for a job, completely forgot that I had applied for the job, and then got a call saying, can you come in for an interview? And it was probably 4 months later that this happened. I was just going on with my life and doing my thing. I did not have them in a holding pattern, and I was not sending them regular letters, but I should have been if I knew what I know about marketing now. Should have been staying in contact with them.
But it runs the gamut. Because I can remember applying to a government vendor that was, I don't know. They put something out on the internet, and I looked at it and said, I'll give it a shot. They called me the next day.
Yeah. But the timing is up to them, not up to you.
Of course.
Right. So you have to be prepared for anything from a call the next day to a 6-month wait. And that's why you really need a big pipeline for this sort of contracting.
Yes.
So, and that's why you do a top 10 list and not just a one that you're going after. If you want to do more than 10, if you have a big enough organization that you can, if you have a big enough sales team that you can pursue more than 10, then by all means do that.
Exactly.
But 10's a good number for one salesperson to manage and, keep those relationships warm and fuzzy and hopefully getting warmer all the time, right?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. That's another thing that we didn't mention is that you're going to have to pursue more than one person at any particular organization.
Oh, yeah.
And because there's going to be possibly 7 to 12 people involved in any given situation or any given decision.
Depending on the size of the company.
Yeah, exactly. So, side note. Yeah. Is or will a Part 135 certificate be required for space tourism?
I suspect that currently it is not.
Right.
But it's hard to tell from looking at all the FAA information.
Right. I actually looked before this podcast, or before this recording this podcast, to see if Blue Origin or SpaceX or Virgin Galactic
they won't have them.
Have a Part 135, and they don't. And they're operating in U.S. airspace, right?
Well, but they are airlines.
Blue Origin?
No, well, one of them was.
Virgin Galactic?
Virgin Galactic is an airline.
I don't think so. They have Virgin Atlantic and Virgin...
Okay, I misunderstood. Okay, so anyway, you're right. None of them have 135 certs that are putting people into space.
Yeah.
And then is that really going to be required? Because airspace is 135, covers airspace up to, I don't know what it is now, 65 or 70,000 feet.
Yeah, so I'm
and
sure
beyond
they
that,
leave.
it's space, and you can't require 135 cert because you want to go to Mars.
Yeah, because it's unregulated above a certain ceiling, but they
Right.
have to go through it to get there.
Yeah, and so it's going to be interesting to see what and how the FAA approaches that.
Right. Well, thanks for joining us. And if you do have questions about how to approach a particular company or a particular opportunity, we're happy to help. Or if you want to position your company for these bigger opportunities, get a consultation with us, and we'll talk about the possibilities and look at what you got, see what we got to get you to the next step.
Yep,
All right.
absolutely.
Have a great week.